This is TWiT.
You all mocked me when I said, hey, I wonder, maybe they'd put the M4 in the iPad.
Yep.
You all said, oh, no.
I said, no, Leo, no. Don't think that was the first thing I thought of Sunday morning when I was sipping my tea, reading Mark Gurman's email.
And Mark could very well be wrong, although usually Mark, when he goes so big with something...
he's not very certain. He's like, I'm hearing that it might be. But still, I mean,
what did he hear? What did he hear?
He said it's possible that the new iPads announced next week will have an M4 processor, which is bananas, and I still don't think I believe it, and will tout AI features. I don't know, Leo. Like, I'm sorry, I apologize. Obviously, your supposition that might be an M4 is more possible than I thought.
Oh, I was just guessing. I knew nothing, so, you know.
I think it comes down to how desperate Apple has been recently in terms of pulling up perception of them as getting, serious about AI. Like, WWDC is going to be in a month. So I don't know if an extra month, it's weird, right? Because this iPad was rumored to happen a couple months ago and then it got shifted. Mark Gurman said at the time it was because of software. I think we all assumed that software was going to be like for the accessories. But now I don't think it's impossible that they might take a chip that maybe it's on the new fab, right? There was a new fab
that's starting package.
A new process at TSMC. It might literally be the M3 on a new process that they might or might not even call M4. It could be M3X or something like that. And then software wise, even though we made all those assumptions, like if they had some AI features either in the OS or in some of the apps, iPad apps that were plausibly, like, what if they delayed it a couple of months so that they could pull some of those features forward a little, given that they were only a month away from being released as a developer beta, so that they could prime the pump and use this product launch to talk about AI a little bit sooner. So I don't think it seems really weird and unlikely to me, and like a game of telephone has gone on, but I can't say it's impossible. So I think on that, I apologize.
I often feel that what people think Apple is zigzagging oftentimes is them getting more information and saying, well, Apple's panicking and doing X, Y, and Z. In a consumer hardware world, whatever chip was going in there a year ago. So like whatever chip they're adding into it, there's just no other way. You can't make the turn. Like, there's so much that has to go on with the fabs and the process and how it's going to integrate. So it wasn't like Apple decided this is all a big deal in September and started to have meetings, and then in January decided they're going to put an M4 instead of an M3. If there's an M4 next week, there was an M4 before WWDC last year. Maybe.
Are you sure? I don't know if I agree with you on that, Alex. I understand what you're saying, but here's my scenario. TSMC was saying we're not going to have the N3E, the 3 nanometer E node, until late 2024. That was their roadmap until, well, maybe recently. Well, so TSMC comes to you and says, and admittedly, it wouldn't be yesterday. It would be in December or whenever they started making these things, and says, you know what? Surprise! We have the process now. Apple, I think you're right too, Jason, is very concerned about being behind in AI and wants to make a big splash. We've heard that the iOS 18 will be AI focused, but it would be and we've also heard that an M4 would have more machine learning processors, would be focused more on that. It would be very interesting if say maybe September, maybe it was September. TSMC says, hey, you know what? I think we're going to have enough M4s for you to use by spring. And Apple says, interesting. And we're pushing really hard. We really want to get an AI. We've got this OLED iPad Pro. I don't think, honestly, moving to OLED is enough for me as a iPad Pro, M1 iPad Pro owner to jump. But M4 and really a big focus on iPad OS, on AI, that I would actually, I think, have to buy an iPad. Now, what's possible is we know they have an event. They announced an event. It's next Tuesday. But what's possible is they may say on Tuesday, and the new iPad Pro with M4 coming out June 8th, right? They may not.
October.
Or
like if they're announcing it now and they're saying October, then maybe they did something at the last minute. But if they say it's shipping in a week or 2 weeks or in June, it takes so long. It's not just the fab. It's how that chip integrates. It's testing those chips. It's doing all those things at a consumer level, at Apple's level. Now, other companies can probably move faster, but half of the stuff goes out that doesn't work. So here's, I just don't think that. I think that this is the boat. It's just a big ship.
So are you saying it's unlikely an M4, or that it was always an M4?
I'm saying that if we get an M4 next week, it was going to be an M4 a year ago. Like there's just the ship is too big to turn that fast, and you can't build those in now. They may be exposing more. What they can do is in software go, hey, this thing that's in the back end, we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be in beta, and they can release software things. So they can say they could show more machine learning things that Apple has been working on for a decade. And they're bringing those things to the surface faster than they would have otherwise. Bringing software to the surface fast is easy, or not easy, but it's easier. Bringing hardware, shifting gears again. It's different than professional level software. It's different than people willing to have a certain level of loss. Apple doesn't have that. They don't have those luxuries. And so as a result, this ship is a giant ship that just doesn't have the trim to say in September we want to change what's happening in April.
So here's the thing about narratives, right? Like one of the challenges here is we've got the cold, hard, kind of like hardware reality. And then we have narratives. And there are a few narratives, right? Apple marketing is a narrative. And we've seen them pick up the cause of AI in their marketing. We saw it with the MacBook Air, which is suddenly the world's greatest consumer AI laptop. Like that is just a shift in marketing. Hardware didn't change. The hardware was planned years in advance, but they changed the marketing. There's also Bloomberg's narrative, and we've talked about it here, where Bloomberg is trying to put Apple's moves in the context of their other reporting about Apple and about the trends in the tech industry. So they want to talk about AI as a trend, and they want to. But what's the hardware reality? My guess is, I think Alex is right. Hardware has to be planned out way in advance. It is possible that Apple and TSMC always were talking about the possibility of doing a new chip, and what it's called is marketing, right? It could be called the M4. It could be called the M3X. It could just not be called anything, the M3 again. But they might have been talking about this new process. They might have said, we can get you a low volume in mid-year next year, let's say 2024. We could get you a low volume then. And Apple's like, well, we could maybe put that in the iPad Pro, because that's, for Apple, that's a really low volume product, right? It doesn't sell at the level of other products. It's a high-end iPad. The iPad sells about the same as the Mac units wise, but this is the high-end iPad. So maybe they're like, oh, actually, why don't we start with that? And we can do that first. And then the narrative builds up around it, which is, oh, this is Apple rushing to do AI. But like, I agree with Alex. The hardware would have had to be planned. And if there is a chip surprise, it's not going to have been a surprise that happened in 3 months. It's going to be more like, they made a move with TSMC maybe to be a little more aggressive sometime, maybe last year, maybe. But the software side is totally right. Like they could push, and think about it. Developer betas would have shipped mid-June. If they had like some apps that were kind of close to being ready for developer beta, and back in February or January, they said, let's pull that forward and put it in a special build of iPad OS for shipping in May. They could do that. That was doable. Or some brief basic AI integration. They could do that faster. So that's why I keep thinking this isn't a no from me. I think that this might have some truth to it, but it's way more complicated, and it's easy to get the hardware realities mixed up in the narrative. And
I think that Bloomberg often benefits in viewership by acting like everything's a panic. They're panicking.
That's why you got to be on the Bloomberg terminal. You got to know immediately about whatever is hot in that moment.
Very rarely is Apple panicking. It's more of a like, oh, we should probably take a look at this and let's take a look at that. And
if they panic, how could they, I mean, like you're making the point about turning the ship. Even if they panic, what does an Apple panic look like?
There's nowhere to go.
It's 6 months.
And TSMC being aggressive about their timelines does not benefit them at all. Number one is Apple won't appreciate it. Broadcasting that it's going to be earlier, because that pushes competitors up and speeds things up. And number two is if you don't make those deadlines, then you look bad. And so there's no TSMC almost always is pretty conservative about what they say they can and can't do, because there's no ROI for them to say that they can do something faster than they can.
Let me read you what we're all talking about. This is from Sunday's Power On newsletter. The new iPad Pro will kick off Apple's shift into AI hardware. I'm hearing there's a strong possibility, so there's the weasel words that you were talking about, Jason, that the chip in the new iPad Pro will be the M4, not the M3. I wonder why he wouldn't have heard that until now. That's interesting. Better if,
right?
Given what you guys said. Better yet, I believe the Apple would position the tablet as the first truly AI-powered device, and that it will tout each new product from then on as an AI device. This is in response to the AI craze. By introducing the new iPad Pro ahead of its WWDC in June, Apple could lay out its AI chip strategy without distraction. Then at WWDC, it could, and by the way, this is his speculation, I would guess at this point. Then at WWDC, it could focus on how the M4 chip in the new iPad Pro will take advantage of the AI software and services coming as part of iPad OS later this year.
There's a lot of marketing in here, and I would just say I actually, the thing about it's going to be all AI from now on, it's like I think he missed it. The MacBook Air was an AI product launch too. They specifically called out that it was the world's greatest consumer AI laptop or whatever. So like we're already in the world where every product launch is going to talk about AI. It's not going to be new with the iPad. There may be more and there may be more detail, but even then it's very vague, and he's really just saying they will tout AI features. It's like, okay, maybe there will be some AI features that they will put in that iPad OS update. And maybe that's even why it got delayed a couple months, is that they wanted to pull those features forward. But the chip, it is so weird, right? Like, because chip stuff is slow. Chip stuff is slow, like Alex said. And so I'm just hearing about it now that it may be M4 rings to me like it's marketing. Like they've got a chip that might be maybe different enough that they could call it something
V2,
else.
Which wouldn't be such a big change, or 3X. Gurman also says, to be fair, these new products are not engineered and developed entirely around AI. This is partly about marketing, as you say. Hardware with even more impressive capabilities is further out. This is a wild one. I don't remember reading this. He says, as I reported, Apple is working on a tabletop iPad connected to a robotic arm.
That's the HomePod with a screen.
And an arm, though. And an arm?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Here is your coffee. Wait, I can't reach it.
Well, I think the idea is that it'll just follow you around wherever you are. You set it there, and it's like an Amazon Echo
has
Show
done that for years.
That follows you around.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's a little creepy, by the way. Because it doesn't just follow you when you talk to it. It follows you as you walk around the house. It's very strange. I mean, it's only turning, but it does. It turns to look at you. Okay, well, you got my hopes up. Now I'm thinking, oh, big deal. It's just some marketing.
No, I mean, this is exciting, right? Like what he's saying is we may be surprised at exactly how Apple rolls out. This may not be like, oh yeah, OLED iPads, whatever, that they may not wait till June to start really aggressively telling the AI story. And that would be an interesting choice if they do that.
And we have to remember that they made a huge deal about the pen. Like it is like not like Apple doesn't put that in the graphic if they're just updating the screens. And so there's a lot of rumors around haptic pens. And I got to tell you that there's a lot of artists that would get really excited about being able to simulate surfaces, being able to, be able to potentially model. I mean, the kinds of things that are possible, and we don't know what they're going to actually do, is the ability for things like ZBrush or other things like that for you to be able to feel like you're pushing into a 3D object while painting on it. Feeling like you have different surfaces, feeling like the pen is the thing that has me the most interested. If the pen is not that interesting, there's nothing else in the announcements that I've seen so far that would get me to buy a new iPad Pro. I've got 2 of them from the last couple of years. I don't need another one. If the pen is really something that is revolutionary from an artist perspective, from my perspective, I'm super interested, and I'll have to figure out how to come up with the money to buy it.
Be in luck.
If it's not, I'm like,
because their social media posts say, like this one does, we're drafting up something special for you, right? That very much implies that it's about the pen.
Yeah, I think that the pen is going to be a big push for it, and I think they're going to do some stuff that's really hard, like with the pen, that is hard for other people to do well. That's what Apple likes to do. If they're not promoting this, if they're going to do something that anybody else could do, everybody else is drawing on glass. If Apple makes it feel like you're drawing on paper, you're drawing on a surface, you're drawing on all these other things, Again, it's not a general, it may not be a general purpose thing, but I think a lot of people, I know that I have an iPad. I have one iPad with that paper surface on it. I do all my drawing on that iPad because of the way the surface feels, and I think it's an important piece of the puzzle.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. If you enjoyed this little snippet of our programming, make sure you check out the full MacBreak Weekly. The link is right down there.